Your Honour, the defendant, Mr James Smith, date of birth 4th of October 1999, has pleaded guilty to committing the offence of unlawfully and maliciously causing grievous bodily harm with intent to cause grievous bodily harm, contrary to Section 18 of the Offences Against the Person Act 1861. He attacked the victim, Robert Peterson, with a weapon, causing grievous bodily harm. The facts of the case are as follows. On the 13th of December 2020, the victim and defendant were seen arguing on the corner of London Road. The victim was Mr Smith's site manager at Lyons Construction, where the defendant had worked as a labourer. Whilst working at the construction site, Mr Smith had been given numerous warnings for repeatedly turning up to work late, failing to follow instructions, and frequently getting into arguments with other site workers. The victim had approached Mr Smith after he arrived an hour late for work to inform him he was no longer required and instructed him to leave the premises. The victim testified that Mr Smith was angry and aggressive, swearing at him and storming off. The following day, the victim reported encountering Mr Smith near the construction site on the corner of London Road. Mr Smith waited for the victim to finish work, where he was on his own, then entered the site, blocking the victim's exit. The victim reported Mr Smith to be loud and aggressive and difficult to follow, talking quickly and incoherently about his job. When the victim asked Mr Smith to leave, Mr Smith grabbed a steel scaffold pole from the floor and immediately struck the victim 5 times, including once to the head, causing permanent facial disfigurement and resulting in the victim being unable to work for 3 months. Mr Smith was arrested at the scene after a witness from the adjacent construction site alerted the police to the incident. The victim's personal statement states, "The actions of Mr Smith have completely changed my life. I spent over 3 months in hospital, and despite numerous surgeries, I still see the damage caused by Mr Smith's attack every time I look in the mirror. Since the attack, I've been unable to return to work, which has also meant that I'm struggling financially. I am no longer the confident and carefree man I was." Your Honour, as the judge presiding over this case, it is your job to determine Mr Smith's sentence. For the purposes of sentencing, I present as evidence the report of Dr. Robert Taylor, the psychiatrist instructed to interview the defendant and report on the defendant's mental health condition in relation to the offence. His expert opinion has been corroborated by a second opinion from psychiatrist Dr. Amanda Bell. As this report confirms, Dr. Taylor states that the defendant suffers from emotionally unstable personality disorder, which is a recognised medical condition. Dr. Taylor notes as part of this condition unstable emotions, rapidly changing from calm to angry, paranoid thoughts, expecting others to harm him, auditory hallucinations, hearing voices, and impulsive behaviours are present. Dr. Taylor notes in the report that it is not uncommon for these symptoms to be worsened by stressful life events, such as a job loss. Indeed, during his childhood, Mr Smith attended a number of different schools. He described initially moving schools due to experiencing bullying from an early age, as he would often turn up to school with worn and dirty clothing. However, later, Mr Smith began to present with challenging behaviours, which resulted in him being suspended and expelled from a number of schools, eventually leading him to be placed in a pupil referral unit for his challenging behaviour. Despite this history, Mr Smith does not have any previous convictions. He states remorse for the incident for which he's pled guilty, but has also insisted that the victim firing him was provocation. Mr Smith has found it difficult to find stable employment. He's had approximately 7 jobs in the past year, with many roles ending due to disputes or poor attendance. In 2019, Mr Smith's employment advisor at the job centre attempted to refer him to mental health services due to some odd behaviour, rushed speech and paranoid beliefs, including believing that previous colleagues had plotted against him that were shared in an appointment. Mr. Smith was diagnosed with emotionally unstable personality disorder during this mental health assessment. However, he subsequently disengaged with treatment offered and was discharged from the service. Aside from this, however, Mr. Smith has had no other contact with mental health services. Although Dr. Taylor was certain that Mr. Smith's diagnosed mental health condition would have played a part in the offence, it is difficult to know whether his mental health condition can fully explain his behaviour on the day in question. Certainly, his history suggests that his dismissal may well have led Mr. Smith to experience extreme emotions of anger. Further, both experts have suggested that preoccupation with mental health symptoms earlier in the day may have led him to be late for work and linked to his fears or paranoia that some of the workers at the site wanted to do him in. It is perhaps even possible that these fears influenced his reaction to his boss dismissing him. However, both experts found it difficult to extract more detailed information from Mr. Smith on this point, and there is significant uncertainty. However, as stated, both experts have agreed that Mr. Smith's presentation is consistent with a diagnosis of emotionally unstable personality disorder, and both experts agree that Mr. Smith could benefit from a period of treatment within a hospital environment. Therefore, as the Honourable Judge presiding over this case, it is down to you to determine Mr. Smith's sentencing.